Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the In the Fire podcast.
Don't do that ever. Don't disrespect yourself.
I don't think that there's not a single episode where you don't say anything about my intro.
There's not a single episode that you don't say something towards me. And to keep it a buck with you, I try to forgive you. I try to say it's all right. I'm going to repay evil with good. But it comes to a point when you have to say something about it and you have to acknowledge it.
Bro,
what are you
saying?
What are you saying,
bro?
Right now? Like, we
guys,
can really do
this is episode 62. Today we are doing something pretty interesting. It's pretty different. It's different for us, but we're actually pretty excited. We're excited to see what you guys think.
For sure.
And yeah, today we're just gonna be sharing our testimonies. We're also gonna be sharing In the Fire's testimony.
Our ratchet testimonies.
Our ratchet testimonies. But yeah, I mean.
So, Danny, who are you?
Who am I?
Why are you here? Why do you know Jesus? Like, what's your story? Like, why do I have to care about what you say? Like, why do you smell like that? Why are you so smelly? Why are you stink? Sorry.
Anyway, I actually came out of the womb reading the Bible.
No, you didn't, bro. You say that?
Straight out the womb.
You've been a Christian your whole life. No, you haven't. You haven't been a Christian your whole life?
Like, I knew John 3:16 memorized by 6 months old. 6 months old. 6 months years old.
6 months years old.
No, 6 months old.
Guy runs a podcast.
Yeah. At 6 months old, I was reciting John 3:16.
No, you weren't. You weren't a Christian your whole life.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk. Sorry.
I actually knew the whole book of Deuteronomy, like every single word for word. Just knew that.
No.
Nah, but for real. So I grew up Christian. My mother was a believer. And her main priority as a mother was to get us to know Jesus. That was her main drive, was I need to get my boys in church. So we had a church that was walking distance. My mom didn't have a car. So on Sundays we would walk to church every single Sunday. Okay. And it was actually one of those like stereotypical churches. It was like, you know, the white building in the middle of like a grass plain. It was full of just old people.
Really?
No kids. Not even adults. My mom was like the youngest adult. Yeah, it was just old people.
Wow.
And so they loved us. It was super awesome. They were lovely, lovely people. I remember they would like give me, I don't know, food, snacks. I don't know. They would give me something.
Yeah.
But I'd always hang out, and that's where it started. It was this just tiny church.
Yeah.
Growing up, right before bed, my mom would read us Bible stories. She would just feed me Bible stories, me and my little brother. So we were reading from like this children's book, kind of. It was like cartoons, simplified versions of the Bible. So I was learning about David and Goliath, Daniel and the lions, all of it. I knew all of it. I had all the knowledge. It was really, really good. Really, really good. I went to this Christian, not school, but it was like once a week. And it was kind of just a teacher teaching you about the Bible, teaching about the faith with other kids. It was decent. There wasn't really fellowship. It was more of just like learning.
Okay.
So I had a lot of Bible knowledge. They used to have competitions where I was like, okay, first one to flip to a certain book in the Bible. So they would say Malachi, and it's like first one to get there. So I was learning, you know, the order of the books. I think at one point I knew the order of half the books, like straight, like all of them. Or maybe even all. There was one kid in my class. I think she was like 7 years old. She knew every book in order. All 60. Is it 66? All 66 books. Dan, don't quote me on that. All 67. I forgot how many there are. But all of them in order. It's pretty wild. Wow. Pretty wild.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
me for the
that's
first
not
few
me
years.
at all. That's not me.
Why not?
Nope.
No? Where were you?
Well, okay, so I was born, raised in New York. My mom and dad.
New York.
Yeah, New York, Westchester County.
Oh.
Just kidding. I love that. I love that place. I'll go there. I would go there just look at stuff. I love that place.
Okay.
But yeah, so my mom and dad, they weren't Christian.
Okay.
We didn't grow up a certain religion. We didn't go to church. Like, I never like really went to church at all. Nothing. I didn't go anywhere, or nobody told me anything that really like kind of interested me or spiked my mind about like God or anything. The only experience of church I had was when my cousin's family brought me to church, And as we were going there, my cousin hands me a Bible. And I think either I flipped to it or he passed it to me that way. But the first thing I ever read in the Bible was David and Goliath. And so I remember in that car, I was just like, yo, what? A slingshot to a big guy? That's crazy. And like, I remember that, but that's like the only experience I had with, you know, God. And like, that was really it. I didn't think about it at all. I was doing my own thing in New York. I was on my computer a lot. Never thought about anything with God and stuff. Like I was like, for me, I view myself as like a blank slate. Like I didn't think about, I wasn't like, there's no God, there's no God. I just didn't think about it because why would I? There was nothing that really spoke my mind to it. But after that, you know, living in New York for a bit, my mom and dad, they split up. So I was still living in New York. My dad moves to Jersey, and time passes. Me and my stepdad, time passes. And then this is kind of where
what was that like? What? Does that have anything to do with your faith? How did that affect your you now? That's
the thing. It's weird because like trying for me to think about my past and like all that stuff, because that can be like hard stuff. I don't know. As a kid, I didn't think about it a lot, you know. And like I was thinking about it could just be because I would, you know, go to my laptop a lot, and so maybe I was going there to distract myself. I don't know.
Yeah.
But thinking about it, honestly, it didn't. For me, I wasn't affected too much about it at the moment.
Okay.
I kind of it was weird. Like kind of had like this like numbness, like whatever. Like I guess I'm not sure, but of course now I can look back and like see things. But at that point, nothing really. But yeah, after that happened.
So what age were you at this point?
I think like 10, 9.
10, okay.
Like 9, 10. So so I lived with my stepdad for a bit, and then something really. Every time I share this story, it's like I always say it's such a dumb reason. But this is what, you know, this is where I look back and I see that God really did this, right? Okay. And it was, my dad bought me a laptop. My dad that lives in Jersey right now. He bought me a laptop, and my stepdad took it away because I wasn't like, you know, good grades or something. Like, I didn't have good grades, so he took it away for a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I became a brat. I told my dad, oh, my laptop. And then I told him, I want to live with you.
Okay.
Over the stupid thing like that. It was so dumb. It was so bratty, whatever. And that's why I always say it's such a dumb reason, but looking back at it now, like, of course, like I see that God was in it. That God had, even though it was like that dumb little reason.
God made you a little brat.
Yeah, like I know for a fact, it was God's plan. It was God's will for me to move here, you know? And so I leave my mom.
I didn't know that was the reason you came.
It was a really dumb reason. And like,
so you just wanted your laptop.
I really, that's
so
what it was.
Did you get your laptop when you came here?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't even a cool laptop. It wasn't a gaming laptop or anything. It was whack.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, but yeah, so for that reason, I moved here in the middle of 7th grade. And when I moved here...
Hold up. My turn. I'm still in here.
No, well, I'll give it to you right now. I moved here, 7th grade, and that's where I met this little chubby Hispanic kid named Danny.
Yeah.
And then I'll pass it to you.
Yeah. So I went through middle school. Middle school comes along. This was... You came along, and at this point in my faith, I had a lot of knowledge. Mm-hmm. I knew a lot. I knew what things to, like, kind of right and wrong, and I had a lot of wisdom. It's actually funny because I remember, I forgot where I learned it. It had to be at this thing, but they talked about the story of Solomon. And how Solomon asked God for wisdom, and he just became the most wisdomatic person on this planet.
Intellectual, wisest person.
And so I remember as a kid hearing that, and I was like, yo, God, I want wisdom. And every day I prayed for wisdom after that.
Wow.
And I see it now. And I look back, I'm like, wow, God, you're so crazy for that. That's awesome. But in middle school, I was kind of known as like the advice kid.
Okay.
I would, like, people would be beefing, doing stuff, dumb things, and they're like, should I do this? Should I not? They'd come up to me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I was known as the Jesus boy. But
the famous Jesus boy.
Yes. So at this point, I had a lot of knowledge. I had the wisdom. I was not surrounded by Christian people.
No, you were not.
No, I was not.
The only guy there.
Far from it. But I was still, there was sort of this fire in my faith. And I just started inviting people to youth group. My mom encouraged me to go to youth group. My older brother was my role model. He was very involved in youth group. He had invited a lot of people, and so people were coming, and he was showing up to the house like, yo, I did this. This was so fun. My youth pastor, this. So 6th grade comes along, and I'm like, you know what? I want to do this youth group thing. Let's do this. So I joined the youth group. They make me leader because I've been at this church for a while. So we transferred to the church that we're at now.
Yeah.
When I was maybe 2nd grade, 3rd grade, maybe around there. So I'd been at the church for a minute. And I was really involved in the youth group. And I was like, I gotta bring my friends here. This is fun. You know, and also I knew I wanted you guys to believe in Jesus too. So I was like, yo, guys, come to youth group with me. And so I started off with 1 or 2 of you. They were like, you know what, let's do it. I was like, yo, there's games, there's snacks, you know, we got pizza, soda. Yeah, we talk about God, but there's also games.
Yeah.
And so they'd come, and eventually, bro, 15, 16, almost 20 people from my middle school class were at youth group every week. And you were one of them.
Yeah, it was true. And that's the thing. Like, I moved here. I barely hung out with people, whatever. I meet Danny. I get invited to youth group. And then that's like basically where I found Jesus, you know? Like, it was, and you know how the story goes. You know how it went. You were there. You saw me. But it was like, I was going to youth group for a bit with them. And this one night we go to the sanctuary, like the auditorium, right? And we're worshiping. Somebody's singing on the stage, and we're just there, right? And so many times, because this has happened a lot, like we went to youth group, we've seen this happen a lot. A lot of the kids would go back and be on their phones. But I would always see Danny like put his hands up all the time, right? And so I was just very curious, like, why do you do that, you know? And I think I asked you, like, why, right? Or something. I think I might have asked you, and I forgot what you said exactly, but I just decided to try it out. You know, I was like, you know what? I'm here. I'm sitting like alone by myself. I'm just going to try it, right? And so I tried it, and I put my hands up, and I was like, just during the song. And then, as Danny knows, like, I like hit like a ton of bricks, just fell down onto the chair, and I was like bawling, and I was just like so hit with like the spirit. And I remember like in that moment, I was saying like, I'm sorry. And like, I didn't even know why I was sorry. You know, like I barely knew what sin was, but I recognized I was a sinner. You know, and so that happened, and I just was there, and that was like when I had my first encounter with Jesus. I was like, yo, that's insane. And like, and so of course after that, after youth group, and you know, we're going through for a while and all that stuff. When we go to high school,
hold up, high school gets wild.
Oh my god.
No, but I just wanted to touch on some of the points you made, because for me, it's actually really funny, because with worship, especially younger, you're just kind of embarrassed to put your hands up during worship. You're like, what is this? You know, like, I gotta be tough. I gotta be like, I can't put my hands up. That looks weird. I remember the first time that I put my hands up was at a youth retreat. Because I wasn't comfortable in doing it in front of my mom for whatever reason. I was just like, I don't want to. I'm gonna look silly, whatever. Yeah. So when I was just surrounded by youth and seeing them put their hands up, I was like, I want to do this too. And I started doing it. And that's when like worship just took to a different level. And I remember what I told you was putting your hands up is just showing God that you have an open heart and to receive what he wants to give you. And it's also a sign of like you not caring who is watching you or who's in the room. It's just you and Jesus when you're worshiping. And that night that you described was absolutely incredible for me. It was absolutely incredible because I kind of knew what mess you were getting into in middle school, and I just thought of you as a close friend, and I saw the hunger in you, because there was times where you're just like, yo, I don't know, I don't want to do this anymore, but I want to, like, I don't know, I'm seeking something. Yeah. And I was like, boom, baby, let's do this. Let's give them Jesus. And so youth group and me just evangelizing you, talking to you about Jesus, and seeing that night you just take that step and just get blasted by the Holy Spirit was absolutely awesome. Yeah. It was absolutely amazing. And I remember that night, it was as if I received my calling that night. Because the feeling that I got watching people come to the feet of Jesus was something that I can't describe anywhere else. It was a joy that I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to see people come to the feet of Jesus. And I don't want to say like I want to see them come to the feet of Jesus because of me or thanks to me, but it just being a part of that journey is something incredible. Yeah. It was awesome. And then not to mention that seeing our friends do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where they were praying for each other, worship. I was like, wow. I would just stand in the back of the room and see everybody doing that. It was amazing. It was a whole different level.
It's amazing.
But then,
graduated middle school.
High school comes along.
High school, like, love interests. There's wanting to be cool.
High school is like survival of the fittest when it comes to the faith.
Bad. I hated it.
If you are able to maintain a very good relationship with Jesus in high school, I am beyond proud of you.
Respect.
You have my respect.
Yeah.
Because high school was a turning point for, I think, both of us.
Yeah, it was.
High school was a turning point.
We went to different high schools,
Yes,
so
we
like
did.
that separation just like was bound to happen because it's hard because we're both going to high school, we're both doing things, we have sports. It's like
new friends.
Like it's hard to stay connected. Mm-hmm. So it's like as soon as high school hits, like I said, man, all the things the temptations, the peer pressure, the bad friend groups, the wanting to impress people, all that stuff just comes up, and so like I remember after that moment, and I think there were some retreats before high school, right? We went to some retreats with like weekend camps, which were like always amazing because you met so many other people that love Jesus, and that was always so encouraging. But I remember, going into high school, it's like, man, you are living in two different worlds, man. Mm-hmm. You go on Sundays, on Sundays I would go with my friend Angel. We would go and we would listen to the sermon. We would go on Thursday for youth group.
Yep.
We would do that, be in that world, be in the worship, get prayer for. When I got prayer on Sundays, it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
People just prayed for me and it was so good. But then I would go to school and it's like a whole different world. Nobody's Christian. Nobody cares about what I'm like thinking about. Yeah. Everybody wants to do their own thing. Everyone wants to go party. Everyone wants to do this. Everyone wants to hook up. It's like I'm living in, I feel like I started a tug of war, It's like, dang, like I want to kind of pursue Jesus more because like I tasted him and it's like, wow, this is amazing. But then there's then there's like fear of man. There's that social pressure. There's all these things that come with high school. And so I was like tugging at this. Yeah. I want this, but I also care about this. And high school is high school,
Yeah. For me, high school was pretty interesting because I went to a high school that wasn't too wild, but it's still high school. You've got kids that are going through puberty. They got their hormones going crazy. They want to get with all the girls in the game. Yep. They want to go partying. They want to try stuff. They want to smoke and do weed. They want to do drinking. They want to go crazy.
Yep.
And I was at a point in my faith where I knew what was wrong, but I didn't have the why. The why I wanted to actually like keep God's commands. I knew what the God commands were, but I didn't have the why in me of why I wanted to keep them. So for me in high school, it was the same thing. It was that tug of war. I was still attending. I remember I attended a Project Timothy. And so our East Coast, a bunch of churches from the East Coast would get together in one place for a whole week. A whole week. And it was a leadership camp. So I was just learning leadership, learning, more things about God. And it was really awesome. And I learned a lot. I remember I preached one of my first sermons there. I had a sermon back at the youth group, but at this Project Timothy, I actually preached my first sermon. So they had like 3 tracks you can take. It was worship, prayer, and pastoring, I think. And so I was like, dude, I don't want to speak in front of a bunch of people. Like, I like to do it.
Adult leaders.
Yeah. But the other ones weren't calling my attention. I was like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. So I asked my pastor and he's like, bro, stop being dumb. Go do the pastoring one. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, bro, go do the pastoring one. I'm telling you, go do it. And I was like, fine. Yeah. And I did it. And what it was like, all right, you have a few days to prepare. And on the second to last day, you are going to do the sermon in front of the whole camp.
That's wild. That is wild.
And I was like, okay, do you have a topic? They're like, no, you come up with a topic. You speak.
Come up with it?
Yes. I have to do everything. And then just do it. Wow. Keep in mind that the pastors of the region, not even like just the church, no, the pastors that were leading the whole region were watching me. I'm like, bro, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Heart racing, heart beating.
Yeah, so the procrastinator that I am, I waited until the last day and a half to do the sermon.
Good, but,
not good. But I waited until the last day and a half to do the sermon. And the topic that I came up with was why our friends want to do these things, but why that will never satisfy us. So I talked about weed. I talked about drinking. I talked about all of it. And I was like, yo, I know this is what my friends are going through. And I knew we were all the same age. It was a bunch of teenagers. So I knew a lot of them were getting into this stuff. And I was like, this is the time. And so I did the sermon.
Wow.
And I did it really well. And the pastors were like, bro, you have a future. Like, the way you speak is really awesome. We were all engaged. Wow. Super, super good. Keep it up. So that was like the beginning of something.
Wow.
But then you leave the camp and you go back into high school.
Whole different world, man.
And you just shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it got to a point where, wow, now that I think about it, almost like Peter. Because I remember I was working out when I was working at Five Guys. I was probably 16. And so my coworkers knew I was Christian. And they were like, so since you're Christian, are you waiting till marriage? And I was like, I mean, that's the plan, but
yeah,
you know how it goes.
That's how what happens. Like, I'm Christian, but like, I don't. It's like you don't want to wear that anymore in high school. So it's like everybody's like, oh, you do that. You don't want to do this. You don't want to go to parties. It's like, well, maybe I'm not like like that stuff happens, man. Because like the social pressure. I feel you.
So I was at a point of my faith where it was like, I know God's commands, but I'm lacking something.
Wow.
There was something lacking in my faith.
Wow.
And I couldn't. I guess I wasn't even looking for it. I was just kind of doing things, and I had Jesus in the back of my mind. Like, when I would do things, obviously the Holy Spirit would be like, hey, don't do that. And thanks to God, like, he stopped me from taking steps forward to things that I should not have done.
Yep.
And things could have gone much worse for me in high school.
Yeah.
But thanks to God, it didn't. But there was just something lacking when it came to my relationship with God. And so high school was something different.
High school was something different. And like I remember, like, like I said, all this stuff already, that stuff, I went through all that stuff. It was so crazy. But then the pandemic hits, right? I remember exactly when it started. I was just starting my track like career, I guess. I don't know. I was doing track. I was doing long distance. I was doing pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I felt like healthy. I felt like kind of fit in a way. But I remember at this time, like, God was really in the back of my head. Really was. Like, I was thinking about it. I was so busy because people who go to school and also do sports, like, you barely have any time, So it's like after school practice and after practice, you go to home. It's like you're tired. So I remember how busy I was. And all of a sudden, the pandemic hits, and then no more track, no more school. We're staying home for weeks, and then weeks turn into months, and then you're just home by yourself.
Yeah.
And like the thing with that, when a person, like when you're at home by yourself with nobody for months, the question of like, who are you just has to come up.
Dang.
Right? Like, without the parties, who are you?
Yeah.
Without the sports, who are you? Like, if you're in that for that long, bro, like, you're gonna start questioning, who am I and what am I living for?
Yeah.
Right. And so that started happening during that whole pandemic, having all that time, bro. Like, come on now, playing games. What were we doing at that time? Playing games.
Only playing games, bro. We were just playing games.
Only playing games.
Yeah.
Watching videos, watching anime, being on my phone, eating a bunch of food, like just being lazy, doing nothing. And that's how I would live my life. Right. I would just do that. Like, I would just waste time indulging whatever I want to indulge in.
Yeah.
All that dopamine every single day. But, in this time, I was, in a way, I was running away from God in a way, because the thing is, I had that experience. Like I told you at youth group, I had it. I knew, dang, Jesus is like, he's real. I know that I know he's real. But during that time, I really felt like I was low key. I was running away from God because I had the conviction. I knew that the lifestyle I was living of playing games, watching TV, playing games online with my friends for the whole day, all those days just burning them and burning them and burning them. I knew that I was basically running away from truth. I knew truth, but I was distracting myself with lies. Yeah. Right. And so that continued. But then there was this one day, this is what I want people to remember, This one day I was playing, had my headphones on my phone during the cue times for the games. I was like, and I just got up from my chair, and I remember I walked out of my room, and I just felt this emptiness that like I don't ever want to feel again. Like, it was like truly like an emptiness in my soul. And I was like, I remember telling myself and like saying, I was like, yo, what am I doing? Like, what am I actually doing? Like, I know that this is not what life's all about. I have tasted what life is. I know what satisfaction is. And I know, like, I knew it. I know that that games, that TV, that Netflix, that phone, food.
Yeah.
I know that's not going to satisfy me. But I was still doing it just because I wanted to do it. But like in that moment, I was like, I can't do this. I feel empty, man. I know what's true. I know that Jesus is the only one that's going to satisfy me. And so after that moment, you know, I was like, screw that. I'm not doing that anymore. And yeah, just change it up the flow.
Right. It's actually really interesting that you say that, because the way we both reunited to Jesus and to ourselves is the exact same feeling. Because for me, it was just a moment where I had numbed the sin so much.
You numb the conviction too. You feel the conviction, but you push it to the side.
You push it to the side, but it got to a point where I just laid in bed and I was like, I feel terrible. I feel like I'm not living life. Like life just feels like I wake up and I'm like, oh, it's another day. I'm going back to sleep. Oh, tomorrow's another day, I guess. And it's a moment where you're just kind of living. You're alive, but you're not living. Ooh, that one. And so I just laid in bed and I was like, bro, something is lacking in my life. Something is lacking. I cannot keep living like this.
Yep.
And it was a moment. It was a very harsh wake up call to me. Very harsh wake up call. And I just ended up running back to Jesus very quickly.
Yeah.
And for me, the re-encounter with God was at a conference, a youth conference again.
Wow, that's crazy.
It got full circle, bro.
Right.
Literally
That's
full
crazy.
circle,
It's
full
so
circle.
crazy.
But it was my relationship with God fully sparked was at a youth conference.
Yeah.
And it was actually the day that he told me to start this podcast.
Wild.
It was the
So
day he
wild.
told me to start this podcast. And I remember I sat there and I just told him, Father, like, I'm sorry. These last few years, I've wasted it.
Wow.
I need a relationship with you. Like, I need one. I don't want to just know about you. I don't want to know your commandments. I want to actually live your commandments. I want to do this. Like, I need you, and my life without you stinks. I can't do this.
That's the realest thing I've ever heard.
I was like, bro, I cannot feel this way anymore.
Yeah.
I can't. I need to be alive. I need to want to wake up the next day and look. I remember driving home with Frazier, and I remember telling him, I was like, bro, I feel like I have nothing to look forward to.
Wow.
And it wasn't like in a very, I guess, dark way. It wasn't like that. It was just like, yo, like, I just feel like I wake up and it's just like another day. Like, it was just like numbness and I guess depression.
Crazy.
It was hard.
Crazy.
And I remember crying out to God, God, I cannot feel like this anymore.
Wow.
I need you to give me something to be excited about. And what was funny is about a week before that, I had mentioned to Frazier, I was like, yo, you know what? Crazy thought. One day in the future, once I'm already established, I've got a nice job, I've got money, I want to start a podcast. I think it'd be pretty cool.
No way.
I did. If you ask him, I bet you he'll remember. I remember vividly. I was walking like towards my car from like leaving class, and I was like, "Yo, it'd be really cool to start a podcast one day." He's like, "Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool." 1 week later, so I show up at this youth conference, and God's like, "No, I want you to start it now. Start the podcast now." Keep in mind, I was in the middle of working on resumes for jobs.
Yeah, you were.
I was ready for like looking for internships, and I just felt about it. I was like, bro, this whole thing is about trying to impress somebody, trying to pretend like I know how to code and program. And I'm like, bro, I don't like, and I just felt God tell me, I didn't give you the personality and the gifts I gave you to sit behind the desk the whole day. Because that's what coding was sitting behind a desk the whole day and talking to nobody, basically. So he told me, do the podcast. He gave me a bunch of other things, and he just gave me that calling.
Wow.
And that same night, I told you, and I said, yo, I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm going to need a co-host.
That's wild, dude.
And you were like, yeah, uh-huh. And I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. And I was like, are you interested in being my co-host? You're like, yeah, sure, why not? It was just like that.
Yeah,
I really don't think you thought I was serious.
I think I was like, Sure, we can start it.
Yeah, I thought it was just me goofing around and be like, yeah, let's do it for fun. Until like I showed up and I was like, yo, I've got the channel. I've got this. I'm about to spend this much money on equipment. I'm throwing a bunch of stuff in my room out so we can set up the studio. Like, I'm dead serious. When's our meeting? When's our first meeting? And you were like, let's do it. We just started brainstorming the name, praying about it. God, what should we do? Fun fact, we are gonna call our podcast The Lion's Den.
Not a bad name, honestly.
But another podcast had it at the moment, so we were like, nah, I don't know. And I was brainstorming with things from the book of Daniel. And I was like, the fire, the lions, the fiery furnace. And then somebody, I think it was somebody in my family from Colombia, they were like, they called it En el Fuego. And I was like, in the fire. And I was like, wait a minute. In the fire?
Yeah, it sounded pretty fire.
This is fire. And I told you, and we were like, that's the name. Let's do it. And things just started from there. And now we're here on this podcast. Now we're here.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, yeah, for me, like after the whole thing with that, I got even back with the church.
Yeah.
I had this cool moment. I prayed to God. I was like, God, like, what's your will? And I heard God tell me, go feed my people. Right. Oof. So he told me, I was like, what? Yeah. Like, is there any food things happening at the church or whatever? So I called my pastor. I called my youth pastor, and he told me that they're doing this food drive at the church. And I was like, okay. So I went to go help because go feed your people. Sure. Yeah. I went, and that's where I met Nico, one of our amazing friends. Yeah. And then I met Evelyn, and then I met basically all of our friends. And like, I just started coming back into the church, got more involved, started being a leader in the life groups, being a youth pastor intern like that. And so like being super involved with the church and we had a friend group. We just the friend group just came together.
Our lives turned around, bro.
Yeah.
Our lives fully took a 180.
Yeah.
It fully took a 180. I think, and it's scary to say this, but I didn't take the Bible, like I didn't read the Bible and pray until, I mean, I was praying and reading slightly, but not seriously until kind of this point. Where I'm like, okay, this is what it takes to have a relationship with God. This is having a relationship with God.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think it's, and for me, I thought it was what I did. It was like, okay, if I invite enough people to the church,
trying to earn it.
Like and the thing is, I always denied it. I was like, no, like I know God loves me, but it was like, no, I need to invite people to church. And if they say no, I'll feel like a failure.
Wow.
And so it was praying and reading the Bible. That's what it was to cultivate my relationship with God.
Oh, yeah, that intimacy.
Intimacy. It was shutting the door to my room and sitting there and just playing worship music and just praying and telling him how I feel. And God, this is what's up. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I want to do. This is what I don't want to do. And just telling him everything and doing that at a constant rate. That is what it was like cultivating my relationship with God.
Yeah.
And that is what I was lacking.
Yeah.
And the knowledge wasn't enough. Like I had the commandments. I knew them.
It's not just
but it was about my relationship with God that took everything to the next level. It took everything to the next level. I now had the why. It wasn't just a rule book to me anymore. It was God really just trying to protect me.
Wow.
And it was me showing my love to him and him showing his love to me by me trying to live righteously.
Wow.
It was and stuff naturally just stopped satisfying me. I didn't want to. I was like, bro, I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to party. This stuff is not for me. It's not for me.
So good. I think, the verse like just kind of ended off with that. I say this verse and it's a common verse, but I always say this. I always preach it because like this is what I really feel that I experienced. John 10:10. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the fullest. That they may have a rich and satisfying life. I say that verse all the time because I always say nothing compares to just knowing Jesus. Nothing can satisfy you the way Jesus satisfies you. And we can say that, me and Danny, by experience, 1,000,000%. These little experiences, they won't do it for you. Parties, they won't do it for you. They won't satisfy you. Jesus is the only one who will satisfy your soul. And by testimony, which now you guys know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Only Jesus, man.
Absolutely.
Only Jesus.
But hey, man, this episode just served as a way to tell you guys we're on this is only the beginning.
Yeah.
We are very young. We're on a journey with you guys.
Yeah.
We go through stuff just like you guys go through stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have gone through crazy stories too.
Yeah.
and we're on a journey with you guys. We learn as we go.
Yeah.
We're gaining wisdom from God, a more understanding, more discernment, and we're learning, and we're just sharing with you guys what we learned here on
and
In
we're so
the Fire.
we're so grateful for you guys.
Absolutely.
You know, you guys are joining in and
Absolutely.
listening to us. Like, it's amazing, and we love the community we're making, the family we're making together, where we can just share what we know and bless and hopefully, you know, bless and sharpen you guys. You know, and so we just thank you.
Yeah, for me, what was awesome is, at first, my first thought was this podcast is for the people. And somebody once told me, they were like, no, the podcast was also to save you. And for a minute, I didn't understand it. I was like, what do you mean save me? But the timing of this podcast is amazing.
Yeah.
And thanks to this podcast, thanks to having the need of uploading weekly and me having to learn more about God and me needing to be spiritually right, because we talk about it all the time. Me and you are like, if we're not spiritually right, we're not getting on this podcast.
Yeah.
We're not doing an episode if we are not spiritually right. So we make sure we are on it. Like, we are on our game before we get on to any recording.
Yeah.
And so that pushed me. I need to be good because I cannot skip episodes. I need to be spiritually right. I need to have a hunger and a desire for the Spirit, for God. I need to be reading my Bible. I need to be knowing and taking wisdom if I want to be speaking God's truth.
Yeah.
And so that pushed me forward. And this
amazing push,
podcast saved me as much as it's been helping a lot of you. So we're on this journey together.
Yeah.
We're doing this together. Here at In the Fire, we a family. We're doing this together. If you guys are interested in going deeper with the family, check out the Patreon.
For sure,
It is
check out the
fire.
Patreon.
It is fire.
Also,
We're building an awesome community.
Patrons already.
For real.
Love you guys.
Everybody that's subscribed to the Patreon already.
You know who you are.
We
You know who
love
you
you.
are.
For real. We do love you.
Love you guys a lot.
But we're building an awesome community. So be a part of it.
Hope
just
you
check it out.
got to learn more about us.
For real.
And
Let us know.
A little
We want to
different
hear your
episode today,
testimonies
but
too. So
yeah.
we'll see you guys for the next episode. We love you. Peace out.
Peace.